Hey boys and girls, it's Nightstalker here. Welcome along today to a discussion about the purple doctrines that I hear that all of you people over there in the EU and NA servers and all of that sort of stuff are going to get very recently in the next update, hopefully on the first day of the season, as I understand it. Now, why are we talking about them? There's a lot of controversy and a lot of enjoyment coming and a lot of excitement and happiness, all in equal measure, about these doctrines dropping on your servers. And I thought I'd talk to you a little bit about them today because we've always had them here on Frontier. Always. Booming Games have always just released them to us, and we've had them since the very first day, over a year ago, when I first started this game. And I guess that sort of qualifies me in some way, at least, to talk to you about them. The first thing I want to say to you about them is don't get your back up about it, okay? If you're out there and you're worried that the competitive players out there are going to start stomping all over you, or you feel that you are also a competitive player and you might feel that the enemy team has an advantage, I just want to talk to you about keeping on doing what you're doing. The primary reason we play these video games is to enjoy them, right? There's a mindset that creeps in if you let these little things get to you. But they're not actually as bad as you might think. I don't know what Vilthus here is doing. He's interrupting my video. Hello, Vilthus. Off you go. I don't know why he's buying bread in that corner. That seems very strange. Anyway, so my point is don't panic. These doctrines are not game-breaking. Not at all. The other thing to remember is that the big boys, the big girls, who play a lot of this game, 6, 8, 10, 12, or even more hours per day, or even the professional players who play at even, just ridiculous levels. These people are always going to have the nice toys a lot quicker than you are. I do understand that some of the people over in the other servers have just had no reason to use the tree ties to get these, and they've got zillions stocked up. But it's important to remember that those people are so far above the level of the game that most of us are, that it really doesn't make that big a difference. Okay, you got to remember that every new player that's coming into the Frontier server, where I and many others play every day, simply don't have the problem with them. Even the new players don't have a problem coming up against people who have these purple doctrines. It doesn't change how units play. It really doesn't. Nam can still shoot and bleed. Imperial pikes still advance and kill cavalry. If you add these purple doctrines to them, it doesn't materially change how the unit functions and how it plays. It is a small advantage, but when you consider it in the context of an entire game, they don't really have a massive impact on the game like people are worried about. Honestly, every single day people on Frontier log in and play when they have none of these purple doctrines against people who have lots of them. So just don't let it stress you out. Don't let it ruin the enjoyment of your game, your hobby. Alright, so today's video we're just going to really talk about basically how to get the purple doctrines and then what the purple doctrines are. And then you'll know. So, how do we get the purple doctrines? The very first way to do it is if you've already got a bunch of doctrines that you don't want, probably a bunch of green ones, is we're going to talk to the War Scholar. And he's got up here salvage and exchange. So we'll go to salvage and we'll salvage all of these. Look, I even have purple doctrines that I don't even care about using. And a lot of blue ones too. And you're going to turn in all of your green ones, all of your white ones, and turn them into mush. Salvage them here. Here we go. What are we going to do? Salvage them and you'll get a whole bunch of these parts here. Principles. And then we'll go down to the exchange and we'll change them here for tread ties. And you'll be able to get a bunch of them there as well. If you're a new player, hit your F4 key on these paths of faith and justice and things like that. All the way along, you'll get a whole bunch of tree ties. There's one right there. And you'll get them for each level of the challenge, I guess you might call it. All right. The other way to do it is your weekly quests. Okay, you'll get them here. You'll get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 every week just for playing through the game. Nice and easily. The other thing you can do is if you hit your O key, O for Oscar, you'll get your turn-ins here. You can get the epic doctrine crates and things like that, but also you can turn them in to get normal tree ties. I hope I'm saying that right as well. And of course, the last way you can get it if you're playing a lot of the game is to get a whole bunch of junk and turn it into this chap over here, the quartermaster, the lion vendor, whatever you want to call him. Fame shop, and you can just simply, as you can see here, you can buy a whole bunch of them. Now these are the common ways. There are lots of other ways throughout the game that you can get these, but those are the main ones that you'll focus on right now. Anyway, let's jump over to a spreadsheet that I've been working on today that has all of the ones that I know about or I can find, and a little bit of information about them, what I recommend putting them on. And also, if you check in the description of the video down below here, I've got a link to that spreadsheet that you can use, you can share with your friends, whatever you want to do. You can print it, I don't know, you can stick it to your wall as a poster, whatever makes you happy. Let's head over there now. Okay, here we are in the online spreadsheet, the Google Doc, if you will. Again, I'm just going to put the link for this Google Doc in the description of the video below. And while you're having a read through and while you're having a listen to what I've got to say, I'm really curious to hear your perspective on what's going on here and how you might use these doctrines and what effect you might actually think they have on the game. So go on down to the comment section, have a discussion, respectful conversation please, and we can all talk about it. Here we go. So the first ones I've drawn up are the spear / tower shield units. Doctrine 1 is increases block by 400. Now as you can imagine, you bang this on a Imperial Spear Guard or a Stalwart unit and they are now immune to melee damage from the front, like just immune, okay? So good for that. But you got to ask yourself, are Imperial Spear Guard and Stalwarts already immune to damage from the front? I think so. I think so. The number of times I see people banging at the front of a Stalwart unit is incredible. The only way to damage them is go around the back, and that's not going to change. Same with the increased block by 250 and block recovery by 200. So that is mostly going to be applicable to the Imperial Spear Guard when they have the nice good block recovery. Stalwarts are in a nice tight bunchy unit anyway, so I don't think it's going to have a massive impact on what they do. So again, it's a small, nice buff to have. Increase your armor by 100 for all three types. Again, not a massive advantage, but definitely a nice one to have. And reduce damage taken by 30. That's nice for low damage things like archers or crossbows, except puppies who are filthy, that are continually pouring damage into your unit. It does help for things like that. The grants ability heal, so you're only going to get 1,500 hit points out of this. I don't know how useful this is going to be. I debated whether I put in the best unit category. Don't use it, it's a bit of a waste of time, but actually the Iron Cap Spearmen don't have a heal, so it might be nice for them, and same with the Domain Spearmen. And of course, increased health by 360. It's just an upgraded health slot. I don't think it's particularly worth it. I've got some nice memes here too, so if I've stolen your meme, I might have stolen your meme. Thank you. I ain't giving it back. Archer Infantry. The Epic Bow Doctrine increases the range by 5 meters. Now, obviously, this isn't going to have a huge effect on much at all. It would be better if it was on crossbows, right? But on the bows, I find the best unit to use it is the Vassal Longbows, simply because their special thing is already range, right? And they're going to try and pick off other archers. So I find it quite useful. Doctrine 2, increase piercing damage by 100. Again, you've already got something similar in terms of breakthrough or assassination doctrine. It's not a huge difference over those. One's 5 damage, one's 15 damage. Who cares? It's not a game breaker. Increases piercing damage by 100 and armor penetration by 250. Now that's a nice buff, but the big boys, the Imperial Archers, for example, it's not going to make a big difference to them, is it? We're talking 5% damage difference. So the way to use that one would be better on the lower tier archers. Prefecture archers who spam massive amounts of arrows in a short space of time, they'll benefit from something like this. How often do you see prefecture archers in the battle? Again, not game breaking. Doctrine 4 is just ammo. A unit can stay in position just a little longer. It's not game breaking. Doctrine 5, Arrow Rain. This one's a little bit contentious, and you may or may not have heard a bit about this. But just like the prefectures, you target with a circle, and they have a massive increased rate of fire that only deals 65% of base damage. Now that's great, unless you're a Namcan. where a lot of their damage come from the bleeds. So hits are important. Highly recommend using this one on Namcans if you got it. I actually do not use this one on my Namcans. I prefer my Namcans to take aimed shots because there's not a lot of times in the game. It does happen, and does happen regularly, but not frequently enough for me to take this, where you're firing into a massed unit of infantry where every shot will hit. It doesn't happen that often, right? So consider that that is very brutal situationally. And increased accuracy by 10%, well, you've already got that. Why can't I dodge? Out of stamina. The times I've done that when, blimmin' game, lag, lag, lag. Oh yeah, it was me all along. Oh, embarrassing. Epic Crossbow Doctrine 1. I don't want to talk about it anymore. We're moving on. Not talking about it anymore. Moving on. Increased piercing damage by 50 and piercing armor penetration by 200. Now, as you can imagine, most of these, in terms of crossbows, what are the crossbow units? Parvi's crossbow units, crossbowmen, and rattan marksmen, and everything else is irrelevant. Completely irrelevant. Those are the only two relevant crossbow unit infantry in the game. So, of course, the rattan marksmen are going to be doing really well with an increased damage of 50, but more importantly for the rattans, the armor penetration of 200. Who's scared of rattan marksmen at high level play? If this is going to affect you at high level play, you got some questions to answer, buddy. At low level play, though, it will turn your rattan marksman into an MG42 platoon. Nice. But again, is 50 extra damage and 200 extra armor penetration really going to do that much difference even at low levels when most of your stuff doesn't even have a lot of armor and hit points anyway? Probably not. Increased ammo by 25%. Parvis don't really go through the ammo pretty quick, so I guess it's rattan marksmen are going to benefit from that because they do chew through ammo pretty quick. Increased accuracy by 20%. Now that might sound filthy, but in the context of only 2 crossbow infantry being relevant in the game, how accurate are Parvis already? They already don't miss, right? Unless you're moving left to right really quick. It's not going to improve on that left to that aiming at moving targets. It's just not. So how beneficial is it? The increased rate of fire by 23%. Now this one, okay, you got me here. Firing an extra quarter ammo in any given period of time is quite nasty. Okay, you got me there. That's one to get. Next one is double shot. So every time your unit fires, it will do 2 shots instead of 1. Now just a tip on this, if you haven't seen this used before, wait for your Parvis to load, wait for them all to aim, and just before they fire, activate it, because they will get an extra shot at double shot. Trust me, it works. Now that sounds pretty filthy, but it's only an 8-second. Now, how much damage do they do in 8 seconds? Well, it's pretty good. Parvis are no joke. And if they double that, it's still only for 8 seconds. And then the battles, the little skirmish that you're in or the push that you're in is going to be over before they get to do it again. It's a 60-second cooldown. Again, nasty, but is it really game-breaking? I don't think so. Love to hear your opinions down below. This is another contentious one that's often mentioned, but it's only relevant to this specific unit, Parvis crossbows. Now, when Parvis crossbows originally came out, they had the nickname in the circles that I play in called cancer crossbows because they were, oh my goodness, if you played season 3, they were just unbelievably dangerous. You'd take a quick peek around a corner and they would kill you. Boom, over and done with. But those days are gone. And they've been massively nerfed since then. So how damaging is it to get an extra shot for 8 seconds, which by the way is 4 shots? Are they really going to be game breaking for 4 shots? And it's irrelevant to rattan marksmen because all they do is get an extra bolt in the magazine, which is not worth putting it on the marksman at all. And the rear crossbow, you've already got that. Arquebusiers. Increased accuracy by 20%. That's quite significant for gunners. But again, the accuracy drops off rapidly the further away from the target you are. And if you're in close, well, you're going to hit anyway, especially against them. Oh, excuse me, a little hiccup. Especially against massed infantry and things like that you're really going to be wanting to do it against. Doctrine 2, increase blunt, piercing, and slashing armor by 50 and add 100 health. Really good for those 2 tanky units of Tercios and Kriegsrats, pretty irrelevant to anyone else. Increased rate of fire by 16. Nice one to have. Okay, I will say this one is good. I've got it on all of my muskets that are relevant in the game. It is nice. But again, just like the Pavese crossbows, how relevant is 16% rate of fire? Especially for something like the Kriegsrats, which burn through their ammunition in seconds. You know, it's not even a minute. They'll burn through their entire ammunition stack in less than a minute. Well, how useful is it? Ask. And the Imperial Arquebusier, the Epic Arquebusier Doctrine 4, move and fire. So if you've ever used the Vanguard Archers, it's just the same. They take a few steps, they reload, they fire. They take a few steps, they reload, fire. It's really the same as holding down V and clicking in a space. It's absolutely not worth using this doctrine in any way, form, shape, or size. If you get one of this, turn it into those little bits that make you get a new treatise. Sword and Shield. Now, again, some context for this one. Sword and Shield units, with the exception of the Martella Lori, are not part of the meta in any which way, shape, or form. They're just not. They are fun, they can be good, they do good damage, but you'll never ever see a Sword and Shield unit in a territory war. As far as I'm aware, I don't play a lot of territory wars, in fact none, but I do watch the videos of people like Poncho and 28 Down and some of the other people who play a lot of good stuff in that arena. But I've never seen many, not none, but I've never seen many Sword and Shield units because they're actually not part of the meta. So people who are getting all of these lots of treatise and therefore doctrines stashed away, they're not going to be using any of these ones. Number 1, increase slashing and blunt damage by 70. Well, that's nice, but I mean you can do that already with the existing doctrines, maybe a few points less. Best unit, any. You use them at anyone, that's useful. Reducing charge cooldown, again, it's really nice. But you charge in, you activate your shock attack if you're condos, or your prefecture drill if you're a prefecture guard, and you fight. And either they're dead or you are. And you're not going to get to use that ability whatsoever, except in maybe some rare cases. Increased charge damage by 180. Real nice, but 180 damage is not game breaking. The Ironsides. I've heard a lot about this one, people saying, oh my goodness, it's Ironsides, it's amazing. Well, smack it on some Paladins. I have it on my Paladins, and it doesn't save them, let me tell you. If you've made some bad decisions, your Paladins are dead anyway. How do I explain it? You know, you get 10 seconds of increased armor. It's not even going to make you Iron Reaper level of armor, okay? And it's a 60-second cooldown. Who's afraid of Iron Reapers? Because I ain't. Nobody's afraid of Iron Reapers anymore. So again, this one is not really irrelevant. It's just a nice buff. Increased block by 140. This one's probably my favorite one. You've probably already got it because it's a blue tier, right? It's a rare level. And I like it on my Paladins and Azaps. And Rare Doctrine 2 reduces range damage by 10%. It's a pretty irrelevant doctrine. The only ones I really use it on is the Martella Lori because they do take ranged fire as they push in siege equipment. Useful, right? Another fun meme. Pole arms, which are generally halberds and pikes. A couple of really nice ones in here. So the first one is piercing damage increased by 80 and piercing armor penetration increased by 120. So that's quite significant if you add it onto pike militia in terms of the percentage of increase of their existing stats that you get. Same with the halberdiers. Again, because they're low tier and they get some nice bonuses by this, you know, that could be, for example, pike militia, that's probably already 10%, a 10% damage increase, right? Really useful. Pike militia are a very relevant unit at all levels, but they're not relevant in competitive play, are they? Nice buff, not game breaking. Bracing stuns enemy units. I like to put this on my fortebraccios. Fortebraccios. I don't know. I'm not Italian. Pike militia already have a stun as part of their veterancy line, which all veteran players will know. And who else is going to use it? You know, you don't want to put it on your Imperial Pike Guard. Their brace is terrible. So really, it's fortebraccios for me. You know, they already have a little bit of a stun, the fortebraccios. This makes them even nicer. Again, not game breaking. They already have it. Grants ability charge. The only real way to use this, I see people use this on their fortebraccios, and I'm thinking, what are you doing? Because fortebraccios are only good in their braced formation, and you use this charge it's completely the antithesis of how they work. You need to keep them very close to your hero for mobility and put them back into the formation quickly. So the only people that really benefit from it is Imperial Pikes. I have it on my Imperial Pikes. The way I use it, because it doesn't do any extra damage, right? It doesn't do, how a sword and shield unit will charge and bash into people and do blunt damage. It doesn't do that for these pikes. So I use it for the Imperial Pikes to get them into position very quickly and then launch into the advance. You can take a lot of people by surprise using that. Is it game breaking? No. It's just a very short range, quick movement ability. And they have a little wind up too, just like the condos going rah and banging on their shields and then charging forward. It's got a couple of seconds before it even activates. Increased damage by bracing while bracing by 100. Well, we've already got breakthrough and assassination doctrine. It's no different. And who really cares about charge cooldown except the launch necks, aka the land sharks, and perhaps the prefecture pikes. Halberdier sergeants too. But 9%, it's not game breaking. Mind you, that's not one of the new doctrines. Again, Red Polearm Doctrine. Javelins. Increase piercing damage by 60 and piercing armor penetration by 180. In the context of a javelin, which have very high values of those two things, it's a very small boost. It's boosts also that you can also get using existing doctrines. Same with the javelin damage 180, and the block break of javelins by 200, not particularly useful. My Jeff Sergeants I like to throw into units more than I like to throw into heroes. That's not going to surprise anybody. So the block break's really good against sword and shield units. Not so good, again, against shield units because they're not breaking those blocks anyway. Definitely not on heroes. A longsword's going to laugh at you. 200 increased block break or not. Short sword is just going to ignore it anyway. It's not game breaking. Melee cavalry. Who really uses melee cavalry anymore? Last season, you could turn up to a siege match and find half of the enemy team had Keshegs. When was the last time you saw Keshegs? I saw them today while playing. It is true, they are still around, but the Laos Rangers are the meta now. Hussars also very strong. Monastics, they've still got their place, right? So who is really using melee cavalry in Season 6? Let's see what happens in Season 7. Extra damage to infantry, 150. Keshegs do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,000 damage to infantry. Well, it's nice to have 150 though. Reduced food consumption, already in the game. Increased movement, already in the game. Epic Lance Doctrine. Okay, so Lance Doctrine is relevant, right? We've got Hussars, which are absolutely meta, and we've got Monastics, which are, they're not flavour of the month, but never discount them. They're still a good tanky unit. Who cares if Hussars or Monastics get an extra 225 charge damage? It's useful, it's important, it might do the little bit to kill a hero, and certainly across a unit of 18 models it's not nothing. But who survives a Hussar charge already? Huh? Reduced damage taken while charging. Well, that's really nice, isn't it? So what damages Hussars and Armigers? Let's say Imperial Pikes. Do they care if you're charging? Do Fortebrachios care if you're charging? Do they care if you get a minus 40% damage? They don't. These are not game-breaking doctrines. Alright? Last one, reduce charge cooldown by 10 seconds. Well, your Hussars or Monastics, they charge, they go back to the point to heal, and then they come out again and they're ready anyway. Is it game-breaking? No siree. By the way, this absolutely drives me nuts. Every single day I click this don't ask me again. Never ask me again. Booming Games, please change that. Mounted Archers. When was the last time you saw a Mounted Archer? I'll wait. I'm still waiting. Every now and then you might see Rattan Rangers, and there is a little slot in there for you cheeky advanced players, you meta players, for the Iron Cap Scout, the Iron Cap Bowman Cavalry, right? We'll talk about that another time. But neither of these two units are present in the game at all. You just don't see them. So struck models will be slowed by 10% for 3 seconds. Yeah, that's really useful for probably Rattan Rangers and a couple of others. Increases accuracy by 50%. That's really nice. 10% chance to shoot a flaming arrow, which is the same as the Rattan marksman ability. Again, great for Rattan rangers. Who will use these doctrines in play? Who will use these in competitive play? Who will use them in siege or field match play? You just don't see them all that often. Field matches, put my hand up and say great. But really it's only the Rattan rangers, isn't it? You know, I just don't see the problem with that. And here's the last ones. So increase damage by 100 in siege battles. We can already do that with assassination and breakthrough. It's just a combination one, right? Same with the epic field doctrine. And epic mobility doctrine. This one is not game breaking, but I find it real nice. I put it on my Falconetti because you like take some shots, put it on, boost away before those troops come in. It's what I find really useful. Reapers is okay. You know, Reapers aren't a meta unit anymore, but they're good. They can be fast for those 8 seconds to get them into position. But Sealadars, put this on your Sealadars for nice happiness. Who cares if your enemy loses 30% less people in the open world? You know, who really cares? They're beaten anyway. Reduce food consumption in open world by 60%, but that's only for 1 unit in your warband. Who cares? This one is absolute, increase labor by 0.05 points. It's not a percentage or anything, it's points. It's trash, right? It's useless. But you might as well put it on your serfs. If you've got your 5 units of serfs and you're out collecting resources, 0.25 increase in labor for 5 of these doctrines on 5 separate units. Tell me, boys and girls. Oh, you've also got available is all the base stack doctrines. So blunt, slashing, and piercing damage, and blunt, slashing, and piercing armor penetration. There are epic doctrines for each of those, just as there are white, blue, purple, right? So, and they're like 110 for piercing and 80 for damage or something like that. But they're just an upgraded version with 20 more points of damage or 20 more points of armor penetration than the ones that already exist. I challenge you, boys and girls. The entire Frontier server, the entire of the Booming Games version of the games challenges you. Tell me which of these are game-breaking doctrines. We've noted 2 or 3 that will have a noticeable effect. I want to hear your vision. Tell me your truth. Down here in the comments, tell me what you think is coming, what you think might be a problem. And we can all discuss it respectfully. Okay? We don't need to flame each other. There's a lot of passion around this issue. But anyway, for now, boys and girls, don't forget that link to the sheet is in the comments, not the comment section, the video description below. And I hope you learned something new today, or you just enjoyed the memes. Thanks for coming to the channel.
Hey guys, Knight here. Thanks for watching my videos. I make these in my spare time for a bit of fun, so hopefully you learned something or you just enjoyed watching. It would really help me out if you would subscribe and like my videos. See you on the battlefield.